So Preach put out a video talking about TBC it's like 20 minutes long. Let's watch this. He has hair. Wait, what the fuck? Wait. I need to talk to Preach. I need to DM Preach about something that's unrelated to hair. I need to shut the fuck up. I need to talk to him about something. I totally forgot about that. I need to DM him. Anyway. Okay. Let's play this. This is a based video. I'm ready. I'm ready to get based. And I'm ready to get red-pilled.
Is the Shattered Halls as hard as everybody says? Am I going to get my face kicked in by the Burning Crusade?
Ooh.
Well, I'm not going to be playing it for a very good reason. But hopefully I can give you some advice for those of you stepping in.
He's not... I'm just gonna not play TBC, man. It's the best expansion.
The Burning Crusade is coming. So many people in my community excited about.
Oh, nah, I know. TBC was so hard back in the day. It's the hardest expansion ever made. It was so stressful, it made him lose his hair. And now that he got his hair back, he actually can't afford to play it again. I know because I'm balding also, and it's because I've played TBC. That's why.
It is my absolute favorite World of Warcraft expansion. I love this to death, and it's the reason I'm not going to play it now. The Burning Crusade was the time when I slept, I worked, I played, I slept, I worked, I played, I slept, I worked, I played, and I booked in its stuff to do at the weekends, such as daily quest grind, gold grinding, profession grinding, all that stuff for my weekends. So weekends would be sleep, play, sleep, and then sleep, work, play. And I did that throughout the entire of the Burning Crusade, which is also part of the reason I'm not going to play it. One, I've got everything I need out of the Burning Crusade, and my memories are so happy and so fond of the Burning Crusade. I don't want to take them by going back, because I have nothing to get out of the newer version, which is... I'm happy.
I don't really get that. Like, I don't, you know what I mean? Like, that's good. Like, I have happy memories too of TBC, but it's fun. Like, it's just a game you play for fun, right? I don't know.
I'm really happy with how many people are excited for it and people telling me what they're going to be doing. That's perfect. That's what I want to see. I don't have that, and I don't want to taint it, because it's kind of like if you saw my video when I stopped playing Classic, it's because... yeah, I had that nostalgia trip for the very beginning, like leveling up, doing achievements, doing my next year achievement, all that kind of stuff, and then getting in there and killing it. When it came to playing and farming, you know, I've done this for 2 years already. I don't particularly want to go back down this road, so I'm fine with that. So what I wanted to talk about today is some sort of life advice stuff with the Burning Crusade, that problems I dealt with that I don't want you guys to run into, that aren't really part of like guides, because very clearly I watched quite a few videos before making this, and I can see already we're going to have the same thing that happened in Classic. People already know what's going to be good. They already know how to do like the raiders. I'm going to be the raid bosses. I'm going to be talking to raiders primarily here. They already know which weapons to craft. They already know what the best comps are in arena. They already know that stuff, and it wasn't surprising to see when I looked at some of the private server stuff is, you know, the same old faces are going to show up, the same class stacking, all that kind of stuff. And if you remember, during the Burning Crusade itself, China got it later. I can't remember how the order went. Either they got Black Temple later, or they just got the expansion later, but they cleared Illidan in Tier 4, so I don't expect that kind of stuff to be... I don't expect it to be super hard rating. Now, Blizzard are staggering the release content, which is a great idea, because people will consume everything within the first couple of weeks if they don't do that, and it'll give a sort of short lifespan to what could be a really wonderful experience for so many people. So I'm really glad they're doing that to get us started. So this is really not guide stuff. This is stuff that I would recommend you do, so you don't have to deal with people like me who have to deal with people that get stuff wrong in the Burning Crusade, because it is it's a powerhouse of an expansion, man. It's a powerhouse. It's an absolute beast. So let's talk about some horror stories. I was a guild master during the Burning Crusade. There are some standard things you're probably going to want to do, such as have, first of all, open your mind to more classes. Not a problem for more of the modern day WoW players, but have a prop paladin. For the love of fucking Christ, have a prop paladin. Have a guardian druid, or feral druid as it was then, as a tank. Don't rely on warriors. It was a big moment for me during, you can see in the background here, me doing Morrigan Tidewalker as I was the main tank. But I gave up that role to be prop paladin. I'm playing a warlock here, which is a later farm kill. But we had a guy, once we had a feral druid tank that boss, it just made it infinitely easier. But I'm coming from the period of time which was coming from Classic into the Burning Crusade, or Vanilla into the Burning Crusade, where all we had was tanks. By Mount Hyjal, I am not going to Mount Hyjal without a prop paladin. Like, that's not happening. You can do it. I've done it.
You can.
It's not the end of the world, but it fucking sucks. It absolutely sucks. Like, don't do that. So be prepared to mess around.
I don't know. Do you think all the top guilds are going to have prop paladins? I think most guilds probably should have prop paladins, but are the top guilds going to run a prop paladin? You think so? You think so? Because I've seen certain prop paladin pulls, like actually on Tidewalker or Hyjal, you do it with a Holy Paladin, and you have Righteous Fury, and you bomb Holy Light, and the Holy Paladin gets threat, and then you have mages and warlocks peel off the ads before they reach the Holy Paladin. So you don't even have someone tanking them, pretty much. I've seen it done that way. So it's going to be interesting to see.
Around with classes and things like that. That's just standard stuff that you'll find in guides. Now, let's talk about achievements. This is going to be a big part of the Burning Crusade. And it could be, for people who didn't play the Burning Crusade or don't really know what they're getting into, it could be an eye-opener. So I'm going to spend a little time on this, although it might seem relatively obvious to you. Or you might have heard about it. People might have told you stories about it. So your map is your life, right? The map, the guide is your life. You can find this very easily on Google. Just say TBC achievements and you'll get this map. Thank the gods. I believe it was someone from Vodka who made this for us during the beta. This is your lifeline. I literally had this in Paint as a save file, and I would color in the bubbles as I did each of them. Now, what you're going to notice is that although they ultimately end up at like the Black Temple and Mount Hyjal, most of this is stuff you do outside of raid, and this was a massive problem I had to deal with. This won't be a problem if you're going in with a super organized, super structured guild, but if you're coming in with like a group of friends who are joining up with some other people, or you're going to make a guild together, all that kind of stuff, do not fall into this trap, which is mainly hoping somebody else is going to push you forward or set things up for you to do this. There are a couple of memorable moments here. This is a very real thing that happened in the Burning Crusade. Nihilim's Bloody Sunday is a big one. So Nihilim, which were the world first guild at the time, killing Kael'thas, which is a big part of the achievement to get into Mount Hyjal, which then leads you into the Black Temple. Yep. Killed it with their A team, got the world first, and then the next week came back to kill it with the B team. These were the guys who, they had a massive roster of like 50 people or something stupid like that. And anyway, these are guys who didn't get their out of raid stuff done, or they weren't the best players. And halfway through the raid, it's told and been retold many times that Kungan and the officers were like, why are we even doing this? Just kick them all. And they did. Now, a similar event actually happened to me, but it happened earlier. It happened just after Karazhan, once we started looking towards progressing into Serpent Shrine and the Eye.
They just weren't hardcore
you
enough,
need
dude.
Achievements in order to do that when you're doing Magtheridon's Lair and things along those lines. I put together a really strong roster of good players. I'm not going to lie, they were really good players for the most part. I mean, even Nups was in there, who works with us now. And the problem I ran into is people just not getting their shit done outside of raid. It requires, depending on your guild's speed of progress, obviously it varies, but it requires a bit of commitment to get all your reputations and stuff done.
Oh.
There are massive quest lines that need to take place outside of raid. Like the Shadowmoon Valley quest line is quite extensive. No doubt...
I don't really think this is going to be a big problem, where it's like people don't have heroic keys, or people like... I don't really think this is going to be an issue. Yeah, I really don't think... I don't really see this being an issue in modern day. I don't really know. I'm sitting here trying to think like what issues he's talking about. So they're halfway through SSC, and then Kunga decides to kick off the raid. It's like maybe you have to do like heroic slave pens to talk to the guy to move the quest forward, and maybe people didn't do heroic slave pens or something, or like I don't know. That's because you're a streamer. That's like the dumbest thing that you've probably ever said. I don't know. You might be dumb. Who knows? That's maybe like an average thing for you. No. You look at the way people played Vanilla WoW back in the day. You had less than 1% of guilds even enter Nax. Now the majority of guilds are full clearing Nax. So it's pretty fucking obvious people play the game differently. Not just streamers, everyone. Everyone plays this game differently. People are better, people know more, people are more efficient with their time. They're more concise, like, you know, pinpoint objectives with what they want to do, and like, they have more concise gameplay. And so I don't think you're going to have a lot of people that are like bumbling around TBC where it's like, oh man, I'm trying to get a tune for Kara, like, I just don't know what to do. Like, no, it's like, you just do what you need to do, right? Okay, I need to go do this dungeon. Okay, I just go do that dungeon. Like, you see, you're gonna see people all the time in trade chat, or like in fucking chat rest saying, you know, looking for 1 DPS and 1 healer for you know, fucking Slave Pen's attunement run, or Arcatraz attunement run, or whatever the fuck. It's very common. It's very, very, very common, right?
People now optimized it so you can do it in a day or whatever, or do it in a couple of hours. But for the average player, that's not going to be the case. It's no good looking at, say, a guild like Apes in Classic and saying, well, we all play like that, because as much as we try to replicate that, you're probably not at that level in your guild. Now,
I don't think you need to be to like finish your attunements, though, is the thing. Like, the attunements are really, the attunements for TBC, they're long quest chains, but the attunements have you do things you were gonna do already anyway. It's like, okay, for the Shadow Labs attunement, you need to kill Murmur, and then you talk to the thing next to him. It's like, okay, you're gonna do Shadow Labs at some point. You're gonna do Shadow Labs at multiple points, you know? You're gonna do Arcatraz anyway. Like, at some point, you're gonna have to do it. It's just like, it's all shit you're gonna do anyway, right?
When I say this, what I meant is I ran into a massive problem with players just waiting for things to happen to them. So a famous case was I had a guy who straight up wasn't able to enter a raid one night. So we were like, okay, join the raid. And I can't remember where we were going, but he couldn't get in. And he's like, I can't go in there. I'm like, why? And he's like, well,
It really sucks for players joining late in the expansion. I mean, if you want to like base it off of how people played Classic WoW, I guess a comparative example would be getting attuned to Onyxia in Classic WoW. Like, is it hard to find a group right now in Classic at the end of the expansion to do the Onyxia attunement quest chain, to go in and do BRD and get this and get that? No, I don't really think so. It's not at all. If you have to do it over the course of like 2 or 3 runs, where you go in, you come back later because the quest has you like advance through multiple portions, okay, you might not do it all with the same group, but over the course of a week, if you have to go into BRD 2 or 3 times to finish the quest, like, it's really not that big of a deal. Because I've recently done it on 2 of my alts, on my Druid and my Warrior. Actually, I have to finish it on my Warrior. In fact, I was thinking of finishing it on my Warrior today, incidentally. But yeah, it's like not that hard at all. And it's not just because I'm a streamer. Like, I see people in trade chat and looking for group channel talking about it, still looking for groups, right?
I haven't done the achievements, and this was way...
And also, believe it or not, Primed Orange. Primed Orange! I spent a lot of time playing this game off stream. And I'm on Peggle. Not everyone on Peggle has all of my character. I play 4 different characters. Not everyone's like, oh, that's Staysafe. I find groups in trade chat all the time. I play alts off stream you guys don't even know about. So people are like, oh, is it hard to find a Deadmines group or whatever the fuck? I have alts that are level 15, 16, 17, 18 that I have never streamed on. People don't know they're me. And I guess it's not hard. I think these like concerns so far I really wouldn't be too worried about as far as TBC goes.
We weren't the fastest guild in the world. This was a relatively long time to the expansion. It's like, well, why haven't you done, say, I think it's not...
Now, I'll pause again. Here's something he's very right about. He's very right about this. There are certain people, probably our friend Primed Orange in the chat, who... How can I put this? Like, if there's no group going for what he currently wants to do, he doesn't see anyone else making it happen for him, he won't do it. It's very common, if I'm off stream and leveling an alt, I want to do Deadmines run, I'm level 17 on my alt. If I don't see a Deadmines group, I'll just make my own. You know what I mean? And so I get a tank, and I get a healer, and I get 2 DPS, and then I make it happen. Even though there wasn't currently one being advertised, right? Or if I want to do Zul'Gurub, and I do ZG off stream sometimes to go try to get an idol or whatever the fuck, I'll just make my own ZG group. If there's not one being advertised, and I get people in, and we just go do it, right? So... yeah, I guess at some point you might have to like take some leadership and just fucking make something happen. And he's right to complain about people that just, they'd rather just sit and complain and whine rather than just like actually play the game and make something happen, right?
Not done like his Shadow Hall's heroic run, he hadn't done his Shadow Labs run. That well, your groups are always full. Now, I was the main tank at the time, and so that was bullshit. Straight up, and it infuriated me. It actually drove me fucking crazy, because all week, and this is how bad this got, is that I would just say, right, I'm on from, say, 6 p.m., which is when I get home from work, have some tea, and then I'll have some dinner, and then play all night. From 6 till, like, midnight, I will be available.
Mm-hmm.
Who needs runs? You know, I would put that out Monday through Friday, that I would do that for people. And never once...
I'll tell you this. If you want to have a valuable alt in TBC, and you can actually make money by doing this, have a tank alt, and you can sell tank services. Because in TBC, there's a weird tank ratio where you need 2/3 tanks for 25-man raids, but then every guild, they're going to be running 2 or 3 Karazhan groups. You know, you need like 4, 5, sometimes 6 tanks for Kara between all those groups. And so it's like, and then you need heroics also, and there's not enough tanks. Like, let's say every tank does every heroic every day. Like all like the actual 25-man main raid tanks, like the tank mains to do the heroics. There's not enough like heroic lockouts between those tanks, the tank mains, to get all the DPS and healers in the heroic daily lockouts. So if you have a tank alt, you can actually sell your service, because there's like the ratio of tank to healers and DPS and TBC is like kind of off a little bit, if that makes sense. So
did at least 10... I'm picking out one guy here, but never once did those 10 players say, I need it, or I'll do that. They just didn't bother. In fact, they were just playing the game. So I would put it on our forum. It was pre-Discord, obviously. I would put it on our forum, and they never replied, and they were doing other things. And what they were doing was focused on what was FOTM, Flavor of the Month, FOTM.
No, heroic lockouts are daily, by the way. Also, I think on recent private servers, they've done like every 3 days is a Karazhan lockout. In TBC, Karazhan is on a 7-day lockout, same as your 25-man raids. But heroic raids are on a daily 24-hour lockout.
Now, that won't be a bigger deal for you guys, but ultimately it ended up with a situation where we were missing a person from the raid, and this guy couldn't come. And we're like, well, what's going on? He's like, oh, well, you know, no one asked me. I think he said something like, no one asked me if I needed my achievements or anything like that. Or it was some really laid-back excuse. Motherfucker had leveled 5 level 70s by this point. He had 5 capped alts. I'm like, what are you doing? And we ultimately ended up removing it. There's a lot of players out there, and you guys have encountered them yourselves, and maybe you've been this person who kind of waits for a real handhold invitation. Like, I need to come to you directly and be like, hey, do you need this? Instead of being like, hey, I need that. Let's get it organized. Let's get something done. If that happens to you, and I fully expect, and I'm saying this not to like scare anybody, but I fully expect that the same thing will happen this time around as happened back then, is people will make guilds to launch with, and very quickly you'll start to see the difference between the guys who get on with stuff and try and organize stuff and pug stuff, or do whatever they can to get through
what he's saying is very
the achievement process. And then there'll be this group of players in your guild that doesn't do that, and then the separation occurs. And what we saw at the beginning of the TBC was a lot of merging of guilds, because like half your roster was one way, half the roster was the other way. And I don't want you guys to end up in that scenario.
It's true. Like, I remember leading Power. You'd have people that joined Power, and they're in the guild. Like, they're technically in the guild. Like, they show up to a raid once a week for like a month or 6 weeks, and then they leave because they're like, you know, and they drop a complaint on their way out. I feel like, you know, I wasn't really welcomed into the guild. I feel like, you know, I wasn't accommodated in the guild. I feel like I just wasn't part of the clique or you know, like the group of friends in the guild. It's like, bitch, all you did was show up to raid once a week. You never hopped in Discord. You never talked to anyone. You never did dungeons with anyone. You never PvP'd with anyone. All you did is log in once a week and do your raid and then log out. And it's like, yeah, that, like, whose fucking fault is that? You know what I mean? Like, you have to socialize in the guild if you want to be like a part of the guild, you know?
Scenario. I really want you to, because a lot of it is soloable as well. Besides the dungeon stuff, which you should try and organize, it's really soloable stuff, because with achievements and things like that, you get to a point where players simply can't come. You know, it's not like retail and, you know, things like that. You'll experience it if you played a lot of classic WoW, but they simply can't go to Molten Core. There's no, you know, there's no cheesing it as far as I know, there's no cheesing it in the Burning Crusade, or there wasn't when I remembered it. They just can't get in. And therefore you have members of your guild who just can't play. And on some occasions, we tried to counter this by like, okay, well, raid's cancelled because we don't want to go with like 2 people missing. Let's go and get them through their achievement. And they wouldn't then do the next part, which is like, okay, we got you this bit, so you just need to go and do X or Y outside of raid. It should take you 20 minutes, and the next night they still haven't done it, and they're playing alts or whatever. So just don't be that guy.
Dude, people like that, you just kick them the fuck out of the guild. Just kick those people the fuck right out of your guild.
I can't tell you enough. Do not be that guy.
Like lazy, unmotivated players
is essentially like, oh well, you know, no one took me along, or you know, the group was full. Now I don't want to be clear here. Some guilds are going to be douchey. They're going to be a tanks. I can express my douchey moment. So after months of this, and a big problem in the Burning Crusade is of course achievements to get started. It's really fun to do, by the way. I want to be clear. It is really fun. Filling in those bubbles is really satisfying when you get it done. But after I had to start removing people because they just weren't getting stuff done, but they were complaining about it as well, which was even worse. So I want to put context to this. I wasn't some tyrannical raid leader. These guys then started to complain that nobody was doing stuff for them. I want to be clear. During my original time playing vanilla World of Warcraft, the original vanilla, I was that guy. I was like, well, where's my fire resist? And they were like, well, you need to go and get it. And I was like, but nobody's taking me. And I just kind of stood in Ironforge on my little dwarf like, this guild is bullshit. They're telling me I need fire resist, but they're not taking me to get fire resist. And I just was like this total lemming. He just was hoping somebody else would just do it for me and I could kind of come along and it would naturally just kind of happen to me.
These are not like TBC problems. These are just like personality problems. Like these are individual personality problems. These people that are like this, and like he was like this at one point, right? Maybe we've all been there. Like, this is not a TBC problem. You just kick these people out of the guild. Or you talk to them once and say, hey, listen, motherfucker, you gotta do your shit. Okay, go. Hustle. Go. Who remembers the streams, like in the Power C team at one point, or Power B team early on, where we'd be in Blackmean Lair or Molten Core, and, like, we'd be struggling one day because people would be underperforming, and so I'd say, hey, line up. Everyone, all 40 of you, line up. I'm inspecting you. You have no enchant. Hey, motherfucker, go enchant your gear. And I'd sit there for an hour and a half looking at all 39 other people and just calling them out on stream. Hey, go enchant. You missed this. You need that. You need this. You need that. And then, you know what? Most of them come back next week. They have their shit. So sometimes, you know, you do have to, like, kick them in the ass a little bit. And most people will respond to that. And you, like, kind of make it funny. And you do it in, like, a funny way. And, like, don't really, like, bully them too much. But, like, there's some people, like, they just don't do shit. Also, there's a type of WoW player. They've only ever been in shitty guilds and shitty, lazy, dog shit environments. And it's like they don't even know what is expected of them in a decent or above average guild. They don't know what they need. They're used to just zero accountability and there's zero expectations placed on them. So some people you have to make it clear, like, hey, that might have been how you do it in your old guilds. This is how we do it in our guild. You get your fucking shit, and you show up to raid, and that's how you do it, right? So some people just need that kick in the dick, and then they'll be fine. But other people, if people just really don't fucking do anything, just get them out, right?
The TBC, that got kind of severe. So something to watch out for is you don't get left behind, and I do expect that to happen. I'll be happy to be proved wrong on that. If that does happen, because now we've got the staggered content, it might not be as big of a deal, but certainly don't be that guy who ends up at Alar in Tempest Keep and they say put on your Akuna costume and you're like, well, I don't have it, because it's really obvious. It's really obvious for the people like, yeah, I didn't do it, shit, and then, you know, you get left behind, because I imagine, depending on how they handle it, because they did remove achievements later, maybe they won't even bother with it. I haven't seen anything on that. Maybe it does exist.
Of course they're going to have them, right?
I imagine for the start they're going to put that in, for sure. Is just don't be that guy who's like, well, we can take this other guy who does have his achievement and we can move on with our lives. Why you haven't bothered to go and do a little quest in Shadowmoon Valley is questionable, to say the least. Questionable. But it's also really fun. Being the guy who can summon Nightbane, really, really fun. Right, you do get a lot of extra bosses in the Burning Crusade if you go and do certain things. You get some keys to add extra bosses to, I think it's Mana Vaults has some extra bosses, things like that. Really old school classic RPG stuff that we don't really get in the game anymore. Very cool. A quick word on professions then. So some of you will already know, but if you don't have this knowledge, a lot of the best gear in the Burning Crusade is crafted. True. Particularly if you're a caster. Weapons is a huge one for melee. But when it comes to caster, the spell strike set or spell weave, frost weave sets are just extraordinarily good and also like crazy expensive. Now, hard to say with class.
And this is why we're talking about professionals so much. Because they're so incredibly expensive to craft, you make some professionals, bing bong bang, easy.
We got a lot of botters and people went in. People who already knew that farming X was really worthwhile, just did it instantly. So we're probably going to see something similar again. Again, from a casual player or a less educated player, I hope I can fill you in now, but Motes of Fire, getting those things together, just be aware and look up early what crafted sets do you want, because they were good up until the Black Temple. I'm not joking. The gear that you can craft, certainly once you can get into SSC and start getting Primal Nethers, Belts of Blasting, there's just nothing better. Now, you do need some raid reagents for those, but for other stuff, you really don't, and it's almost impossible to replace that gear. There were real, genuine arguments, and I'm sure somebody's mathed it out now, as to whether Tier 5 was... any Tier 5 piece was better than buying those, than wearing those crafted sets. That's hard to say what's going to happen there. I know they've changed drums and things like that, so you're not going to be sort of tied to leatherworking. But this stuff is likely still to exist. I'm sure Storm Herald's going to be around, and I'm sure these sets are going to be around. So if you are playing a cast...
I'm just watching... Dude, this Warlock, I don't know if it's his footage or someone else's footage. This Warlock is obsessed with Drain Life. This Warlock is Drain Lifing at full HP. This Warlock will not stop casting Drain Life. He won't do it. Watch. Curator, he's doing it again, I guarantee.
Which I imagine a lot of people are probably going to want to play Warlocks, play some Shadow Priest, Mages up until like Sunwell when they severely dropped off in usability. Get that early. Honestly, I would focus on that from the get-go. Instead of focusing on other gear, just get outside, because obviously Elemental Plateau, which is going to be a big deal, is something you want to get involved in really early. I can't tell you enough. And the reason I'm telling you this is, even though you might be already aware of it, is we had to start swapping people who weren't doing it, because their damage was so much worse than the people who went and got their crafted gear. And there's also resentment.
That's very true.
This is the life advice stuff. There's a lot of resentment by the people who went out and farmed their stuff and got this really good gear and, you know, worked hard to get it done, versus the guys who were like, oh, I'll just wait till it drops in raid. Or
this is why having super, super firm requirements for what's expected of each individual in the raid is very important. And you need to communicate it very, very clearly, because, yeah, I'll use world buffs as an example, right? If you don't set any requirements for world buffs, and so you have some people showing up to your raid with 0 world buffs, and then you have other people in the raid showing up with full world buffs to get war chiefs every week also in Songflower, then the people that put in more work and get the full world buffs are going to resent the people that don't, even though there's no requirement. So you say, okay, listen, requirement. Everyone has to have full world buffs other than Songflower and other than War Chiefs. If you get Songflower and War Chiefs, that's great. That's on you. It's not expected, though. Everything else is required. So you set a minimum, right? You set a minimum. Or, you know, enchants and everything, like, hey, to be in this raid, going forward, you need to have 4 stats on your chest. There is no excuse otherwise, right? That was actually a big conversation we had at one point in our guild, the four stats conversation, right? Because otherwise you have people showing up with dog shit enchants or no enchants at all, and then, you know, and that it causes resentment, right?
I'll just wait until it drops in a dungeon, because in the Burning Crusade, certainly at the start, some of the dungeon items, certainly heroic trinkets, are better than what you can get in a raid. Like, they're super fucking good for some reason. I assume we're going to be starting with the buffed Karazhan loot. I doubt they're going to re-implement the idea that Karazhan loot was worse than Blues until they buffed it. I'm sure they're going to do it up. They might have mentioned that at BlizzCon Online, but I didn't see it. That's something you need to bear in mind as well, is just double check your gear. You do have BIS lists like we did in Classic. Very useful. I'm sure that information will be out there. That's the stuff I really want to put out there for you guys, is there's so much to do. There really is so much to do. With getting reps, you need to get your heroic keys. Doing all the quests in the zone, I really wouldn't worry about capping. Like, if my general strategy is, if I was coming back to the Burning Crusade, if I was going to take part in launch, I would do every quest in the zones. Every single one. I would skip Blade's Edge until I get flying. Right? So I would go Hellfire into Terakar. Hellfire, Zangarmarsh, Terakar, Nagrand, Shadowmoon Valley, Netherstorm. Then at some point you're going to cap well before that point, but then go back and do Blade's Edge, because that gives you a lot of rep, and you can smash that out really quickly. Capping's not a big deal in the Burning Crusade.
Very true.
And have all that done. It gives you a ton of reps so you can get your keys and go and get your heroics started and have some fun with that, because they're going to be rough. A lot of people do ask about the dungeons. How hard are they going to be? I will say this.
Easy.
Like, we were in the era of min-maxing in early Burning Crusade.
No, they weren't. No, we weren't. I played TBC. No, we were not. No, we were not. No, we were not. Like, the way people played TBC back in the day is dog shit compared to the way people play the game these days. Dog shit. Very far from it. Also, dude, Waffle with the Twitch Prime. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it, man. Thank you very much. Fuck. There was something else I was gonna say. What was I gonna say? What else was he talking about? Dude, I'm totally drawing a blank. Let me rewind a second. Maybe it'll jog my memory. Hold up.
That because they're going to be rough. A lot of people do ask about the dungeons. How hard are they going to be?
Oh, the dungeons. Yeah. Okay. So the leveling dungeons are designed for people in blue and green gear, right? A lot of you guys are going in to TBC with like full fucking Nax gear or full rank 14 gear or whatever the fuck. Are you guys trying again? I'm sick of it. These orcs are rising up. Do you want a duel? Do you want to duel me? Do you want to duel?
I will say this, like, we were in the era of min-maxing in early Burning Crusade, and in blues, those heroic dungeons one-shot tanks. I was a tank. They some of the mobs definitely one-shot tanks, like the blood. I can't remember the name of the dungeon, but I think it's the Blood Furnace. The demons in there just straight one-shot tanks. Be ready for that. It's not a case. There might be some cheese to it now. You can.
Oh, the fail guards, yeah.
But be aware the heroics are going to be tough to get you started. But gear is massive in the Burning Crusade. It's absolutely huge.
Dude, it's true. Like, a lot of the heroics actually are kind of harder than Karazhan. Like, what a lot of you guys will do is, like, spend a week maybe farming heroics, and then you go into Karazhan, you're like, yeah, I got my heroic gear now. I struggled through all these fucking heroics for a solid week. I got some decent gear. You go into Karazhan, and after spending a week in heroics, after spending the last week in heroics, you're like, wait, yo, this is easy. Like, what the fuck? Like, Karazhan's way easy, man. So, yeah, you'll see. Unbelievable.
Really
unbelievable.
Big. I look forward to hearing what you guys enjoy there.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Don't get left behind, all right?
Don't
get left behind. Don't be that guy who's like, well, the guild doesn't take me, because it's the best advice I can give you in the Burning Crusade. As a guild master who spoke to a lot of other guild masters across the server, it was the most widespread problem. It's just people not getting stuff done outside of raid.
Don't be a lazy motherfucker.